What's up, y'all? Good morning. I'm gonna go ahead and do a video real quick. Uh, I'm gonna go ahead and do my intro. Anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Joseph. I'm part of Breaking the Chains. Um, the group Breaking the Chains. My partner is Jewel. I go live with her sometimes. I'm gonna tag her real quick. Um, yeah, so I go live with her sometimes. We haven't really gone live together recently. Just been busy. I think the kids just started school. Good morning, Ashley. So I've been going kind of solo with it, but it's fine. But anyway, we're part of Breaking the Chains. We started about 2 years ago. Uh, it was my mom's vision. It was what she wanted to create. So when she passed away, we just went ahead and picked it up and carried it in her memory. We've been doing it ever since. I have a bad habit, y'all, of covering my speaker. So if I start getting quiet, just let me know. Um, but anyway, so she wanted to start Breaking the Chains. So when she passed away, we went ahead and did it for her. Um, Jewel is a recovering opiate addict. She's been clean for, I believe, 9 years now. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I've been sober for 7 months. I started my sobriety journey. I started it about 3 years ago, um, and I relapsed in the process. I think I was like 22 months when I relapsed. Made a bad decision. Had a bad night, and I picked myself up the next day. I talked to my circle and made sure what was I doing wrong, what mistakes was I making, and I never looked back. So it's been 7 months since that day. So I'm on a roll. But anyway, so we're also striving towards opening our own recovery house next year, and it's going to be called Wendy's House in my mother's name. It's going to be a women's house. I've already explained to you why. In the future, I would like to open a men's house, but for right now, we're trying to open a woman's house. Um, so if anybody sees, Breaking the Chains is nonprofit. It's a nonprofit organization that we started. My sister-in-law, she also collaborates with Miss Shore Restoring Hope in Women. They're also nonprofit. So when you see us, I don't know if you guys saw our video when we had our recovery event that we hold. We hold two a year. Um, all the money that we raise there, it goes directly to Restoring Hope in Women. Um, Anything we make off T-shirts, that's where it goes. But here soon, we're gonna start, raising money so we can start up our own house. As you guys know, it costs money to buy a house. You got to buy a whole house to do this thing. Um, and there's funding and stuff. We're looking into all that, but I kind of want to be, we kind of want to be in control of how we operate, and we don't want to have a lot of stipulations placed on us. So we're weighing all our options. So just so you guys know, that's where it goes. Everything's nonprofit. So if you buy a T-shirt, it goes to a good cause. Uh, my sister-in-law told me that I believe we've gotten 15 women. Uh, you know, I think we've placed 15 women so far, so that's not too bad. If you can help anybody, it's great. Just one person even. Um, she went and met with a homeless couple the other day, and we're trying to get them placed somewhere. So we're out here doing this thing. We're trying our best to do what we can while maintaining our own sanity and our own sobriety. Um, so I usually do the just for today. Sometimes I'll do a random topic, but I like to kind of stick with the just for today. So today I like it because I can play both. I can play two sides on this topic. So um, the just for today talks about how through going to meetings, that's how we stay clean, and um, it's I like it because what we have right here in this community. This is a community. This clean and sober group. It is a community. It's just like a meeting, except it's way bigger, right? Instead of going to a meeting in a little town with a couple cups of coffee and 10 people, we're having a meeting right now with over 60,000 potential people, right? So it's a great thing if we look at things the right way. If we don't get all caught up. So many people, so many people let other people dictate how they feel. They let other people dictate their sobriety. And I don't know. It's just, you can't hear anything, Paula. Can anybody else hear me? Because I said earlier I have a really bad habit of covering my speaker. I can see you commenting. Good morning, April. Good morning, Paula. Good morning, Lexi. Appreciate everybody who's watching me right now, who's being a part of this. But anyway, so I don't want to get sidetracked. So, like I said, this group here, this clean and sober group, it's a beautiful thing if we just look at it the right way. I see a lot of people who, they just let so many outside things, dictate their sobriety, dictate their clean time. And, I feel I'm a big believer in we get what we focus on. You understand? Does anybody understand what I'm saying? So in my opinion, if you can let in who you want to let in. The world's a big place. Not everybody's going to be not everybody's a good person, right? Not everybody's going to say the right things at the right times. We're going to have people who, let's just be honest about it. There's some, pure evil people out there. There's some assholes. And that's just life. That's just a part of life. And I wouldn't try to let one asshole, dictate how you feel about yourself, or, dictate what you think about the community as a whole. You understand? Because I've seen so many people talk about, I'm leaving the group. And that could jeopardize their clean time. This group might be their only access to a meeting. And, they're walking away because somebody said a thing they didn't like. So we gotta toughen up a little bit. We gotta thicken our skin. And I try to think back to the person I used to be and the way I used to live and the things I used to do to other people and myself. Are we really that soft? Let's really think about it. Like, all the stuff we put ourselves through, all the stuff we put other people through, why now are we so soft? Why can't we take a little bit of negativity or a little bit of, ridicule or criticism? Just block it away. Just throw it away. And I understand, some things people say can really stick with you. They can really hurt. But like I've always said in life, that's an indictment on them. It's not an indictment on you. It doesn't say anything about your character. It says more about their character. So with that being said, tying this back into the topic, it pretty much says in the topic that I posted, these meetings are how we stay clean, right? So it's like I don't know, it's a thin line, and it's a fence. Meetings help some people. Meetings do not help others. So the biggest thing I want to pull away from this, what's up, Lance? Hello, April. Hello, Greta. Don't be easy prey. So the biggest thing I want to pull away from this is, recovery is not a one-size-fits-all program, right? What works for one person does not always work for the next person. So while I shared this topic because it was the topic for September 6th, and I want to stay, on track with the dates, I also want to refute the topic too, because meetings are not a one-size-fits-all. Me personally, even though I say this is a meeting, technically right now I'm holding a meeting, right? But the standard meeting that we think of, walking into a church and grabbing a AA book or a NA book and sitting down and having a host, somebody hold the meeting, and that never worked for me. That never helped me. The reason being is because when I went to an AA meeting, when I left, I always wanted to drink more than when I walked into the door. And that's just because you can't really control what you're listening to, right? Like once you have a seat, you're there. You're there for the hour. You got to sit there and listen to whatever anybody says that stands up and talks. Sometimes you'll have somebody in there that's drunk, that comes in there drunk and wants to share. You know how it is when you drink, you get all chatty. You know what I mean? You want to run your mouth. So sometimes they can't control themselves. Um, Also, you'll have a lot of people who get up there to share and they'll get sidetracked, um, and they'll do a little too much reminiscing. They'll be up there and they'll be talking about some of their nights they had out, and they're up there laughing, having a good time. Everybody in the room's laughing, and the whole time they're just talking about shit they did when they were drunk, right? So, like, I'm sitting in a meeting, I'm trying to get away from alcohol. I need a place where I can um, get some, get some hope put into my life. Somebody tell me like it is possible, and I got this guy up here who's laughing, having a great time with everybody else in the room, and everybody else laughing, and all he's doing is talking about shit he did when he was drunk. So as a young person walking into a meeting, and that's what I'm hearing, by the time I'm like, what the fuck am I here for? You know what I mean? Shit, when I leave here, I'm going to the store and I'm gonna make a story to talk about. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna make a new story, because it seems to me like he's having the time of his life up there talking about the shit. I don't like to do that. Like, for a lot of you guys haven't heard me really spit out my catalog, or spit out all this shit I did when I was drunk, in detail, because I feel like it's counterproductive. We wanna live in the now and the future, right? So we kind of want to throw our past out. We wanna heal from it and move the fuck on. Excuse my language, but that's how I feel about it. We just want to heal from it and move on. There's no sense in living in it. There's no sense in to keep bringing it up and talking about it, and because all you're doing is creating an itch. You know what I mean? You're only gonna be able to do that so many. It's like going in and sitting at a bar. How many times you think you're gonna be able to do that before you ask for a drink? To me, it's the same exact thing when you always want to talk about shit you did when you were drunk, and you're laughing about it like it was a good time. Um, we we have a selective memory. Like, I always talk about how when you're in a bad situation, it's like the worst thing ever. But a few days away from it, once you've got over it and you've gotten out of it, um, to me, it's like you forget about how bad it really was. But you really fantasize and glorify the couple good times you had that weren't really that good. You know what I mean? You think they were really good because in your subconscious, you're looking for a reason to drink or to use drugs. You're looking for something from your past to validate you going back out there. Because we're not really sure ourselves. You know what I mean? We're not really 100% sure that we have a problem sometimes. Sometimes, like I told you guys before, I started drinking when I was like 15. By the time I was 19, I already had 3 DWIs. My life was already starting to kind of crash in around me. So at 19, I really woke up and realized by the time I was 19, 20, I'm like, man, something ain't right. I got a problem with this shit, because why do I keep doing the same thing? Like, I can't even resist driving. I can't even do the smallest thing, the most common sense thing. But I still drank for another 10 years. Even though I knew I had a problem when I was 19 or 20, I still kept drinking for like another 10 years because I had an ego and I didn't want to face the facts that I was out of control and I couldn't control myself. Um, and I couldn't face the facts that I had to live a life without alcohol. Forever is a long time, y'all. So when you sit down and tell yourself, I can never drink again, that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure. Um, because you're so used to it. It's become a part of you. Same with drugs. I'm talking about drinking because that's my thing, but same with drugs. Um, it's become a part of you when you've done it for so long. What's up, Claire? Um, so it's really hard to look at it like a forever thing. So what I always, that's why the cliche is, one day at a time. Take it step by step, moment by moment, day by day. Um, I always tell people to set like a small time goal, like, I want to make it 30 days, but always have a big goal in the back of your mind. You want two different goals. You want something for right now and you want something for the future. So I always tell people to have that because it breaks it down. It doesn't make it seem impossible. If I sat you down when you were, 22 and I told you, hey, you can never drink again, that's a lot of pressure. It's going to be like, overwhelming for you to think about the rest of your life without it. So, you don't want to really look at it like that. In the back of your mind, you want to say, like, yeah, I want to stay sober forever. But you need something small that's really obtainable. Something that you can accomplish that'll boost your self-esteem. If you have a 30-day goal and you make it to 30 days, that's ammunition. You feel good about yourself, like, damn, I actually accomplished something that I wanted to accomplish. And then you can up the ante next time. Now I want to go 60 days. Now I want to go 90 days. And those small increments of time adds up to forever if you just keep working at your program and you keep setting the goals for yourself. It's really hard. Forever is a hard time. It's a hard thing to look at, because, if you're young, you might be here for another 50 years. And it's just hard to accept, but you can't, you have to make the decision. And I feel like a lot of us dance around the decision. And I was one of those people. I was one of those people that I could go some time without drinking, but I always had to, I always had to scratch it. I always had to go back to it. And it always ends up a spiral. I've never, except for the last time I drank, I never really just drank once and then got back up and started, like, okay, I need a break. I've always drank until something bad happened, or I always drank until I made an ass of myself quite a few times before I was like, okay, I need to get away from this again. And, a lot of people live like that. A lot of people's recovery is like that. I'm not special. I know a lot of people's recovery is just a back and forth game all the time. They get some clean time and they go out and use because they haven't really made the decision. They're still questioning their decision. They still aren't sure if they can go without it. And you can go without it. There's a lot of people out here who, don't live their life with drugs and alcohol, and they're happy people. There's a lot of people who never even use drugs and alcohol, and they're happy people. And they say, like, ignorance is bliss, but at the same time, yes, ignorance is bliss, but we as recovering addicts and alcoholics, we know the damage. We've been affected by the damage. The people we care about have been affected by our damage that we've put on them. The court systems had to deal with us. So we know better. You know what I mean? So yes, ignorance is bliss, but also if you know better, you should do better. So that's how I feel like. I feel like, we all know better and we should all do better. And you just got to take it day by day. But you have to make that concrete decision that I do not want to use anymore. I do not want to drink anymore. And this is something that I want for my long-term goal. This is something that I want for the rest of my life. So be transparent with yourself. If you're not sure, be honest. It's okay. You don't have to feel pressure to feel like I want this forever, to have some recovery time or to live a life in recovery. It's okay. You don't have to pressure yourself. If you're not ready, then instead of putting that pressure on yourself and making that decision, at least be honest with yourself. You got 4 years. Congratulations. So be honest with yourself and be honest with people in your circle. If you have a foundation and you're in recovery, don't hide that shit. Don't throw that ego in the trash can. Don't hide that shit because you don't want to admit. It's funny, like, we don't want to admit to another addict or alcoholic that we're struggling, or we don't want to admit that I'm not sure if I can do this forever, but I think I can handle it for right now. It's just, you shouldn't be that way because we're all going through the same things. we've all had the same struggles. What's up, Pam? 8 days can turn into 8 years. Just keep doing what you're doing, and number one, just build your foundation. That's the most important. You got to make sure you have a solid foundation, and that's why I like this topic, because in this topic it says, meetings is pretty much how you stay clean. So I'm here to tell you that's not true. I'm here to tell you that, recovery is not a one size fits all. I'm here to tell you that we can all recover in different ways. So I always use the example. My grandfather was an alcoholic, and my uncle was an alcoholic. Both of them, brothers. My grandfather did meetings. He lived on them. He had to have them. You know what I mean? And my uncle quit cold turkey. Never went to a meeting a day in his life, and they both maintained sobriety until the day they died. So that just proves it. I mean, it's proof right there that we're all different human beings. We're all wired different. What works for one doesn't necessarily work for the other. So you have to know you. You have to get to know you, and you have to figure out what you like, what you don't like, what helps you, what doesn't help you. And it all comes down to just being honest with yourself, being real with yourself, and not worrying about what anybody else thinks. So to me, my foundation is for myself. My foundation is my family, my children, my future goals and aspirations. I know that if I want to buy a house, I know that if I want to start a recovery house, I can't be drinking. I can't drink and do both. I got to pick which one do I want more, which one's more important. And as we grow and mature, we make better choices about what's important and what's not. My foundation is also, working out, trying to take care of myself, because I abused myself for so many years that I need to make up for it. I try to make up for it. And that, working out also releases those chemicals. You walk out of the gym and you just feel like a brand new person. You're happy. It boosts your self-esteem. It just boosts your overall mood. At least it does for me. And it wears you out. That's another thing. Sometimes in recovery, we just on the go, because we still walk into it with the chase mentality. And we try to occupy our minds. It's healthy, but sometimes, you need to slow down. Because you can get in a big hurry running all around trying to stay busy, and you can trip and fall just the same as if you stand still. So you got to find balance in your life. Balance is important. I have 7 months. So I started this, I said it in the beginning of the video, but I started this recovery journey of mine 3 years ago, and I started it 2 weeks before my first daughter was born. I got 20 months or 22 months, somewhere in that window, and I relapsed. My daughter and my wife were away. They went to go visit family, so I was home alone by myself for 2 weeks, and I just didn't make it. I made a bad choice. I didn't have anybody that I was responsible for. I didn't have anybody that I was accountable for. So I just said, fuck it. You know what I mean? And it made me realize that, this is something I also preach to you guys because I went through it. It also made me realize that I got to care about myself, not just my daughters, not just my family. And I can't use them as a crutch to stay sober, because life happens and they're not always going to be there to watch you or babysit you, to make sure that, not really babysit you, but they're not always going to be there for your motivation. So you got to make sure you're accountable for yourself too. I talk a lot about, loving yourself and caring about yourself and valuing yourself and putting yourself first. I mean, this 3 year journey that I've been on, this is the first time that I've really took it serious. And I've really gotten any real type of sobriety. The only other real sober time I had was, I caught some charges, and I stayed sober until my court date because I couldn't afford to get in any more trouble. So, I mean, this is the only time I actually truly wanted it, for this 3 years. You're welcome. You're welcome, Katie. So that's important. That's why I say you got to make sure you really want this shit. You can't you can't come into it with false motives. You can't come into it saying, I got to get sober so I can get my kids back. I got to get sober so I don't lose my job. I got to get sober so, um, I can build my relationship back with my parents, or I got to get sober so I can stop getting arrested. All that shit's fine. It might be your fire starter, but in order to keep it, in order to keep the fire, you got to want it for you, just you. And I feel like if I could guess, I feel like that's where the majority of us fail, is we get into it for other reasons than just us. You know what I mean? Um, and at least that's how it is for me. That's how it is for a lot of people, because what happens? You see people all the time who had long-term sobriety, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 8 years, 10 years. They've gotten everything that they wanted now. They're back on top. When we started drinking or using drugs, we were probably on top, right? We probably felt good about ourselves. At least a lot of us did. Not everybody. Some of us complete opposite. But just to make my point, so once we get recovery and we start to get all the shit back that we wanted, I got my kids back. I got a new job. It's a good job. I got a raise. I got a promotion. Got my house. Got 2 cars. Over time. It's like, shit, I'm done. I can go ahead and party now. And then all that shit just starts to fall away from you. I was in rehab with this guy. It was one of the weirdest stories. And I'm going to share this, and this is going to be my end. It was one of the strangest stories that I ever heard in recovery. My mom was an addict. She grew up rough. She started using drugs when she was a kid. You know what I mean? So, like, that's the story that I know. I also know the suburban kid who gets bored and wants to rebel and hangs out with his friends and gets high. I know that story too. Those are the 2 stories that I know. Either you had a bad life and you use because that's what you saw around you, or you had a good life and you rebelled and you went out there and ran wild. But I was in rehab with this gentleman. He was 50 years old, and I was working out with him when we were in rehab. We were working out together, and I built a relationship with him. And I asked him his story. He was telling me his story one day, and he owned his own construction business. So he had money. He had good money. He owned his own construction business, and he used to have like annual parties. He'd have all his employees over to his house. They'd have a big cookout. They'd have a party, and they would hang out. And he said that a group of his employees went into his shed, so he followed them in there, and they were in there smoking crack, and they asked him if he wanted to try it, and he said yeah. This man was 50 years old, and he said yeah, and it ruined his life. He lost his business. He lost all the shit that he had, you know what I mean? And I was just so blown away that at 50 years old, like, I don't understand, you know what I mean? It was one of the wildest stories that I've ever heard, as far as like just when you started using. I've never heard a story about a 50-year-old who started using drugs. That was the first time I ever heard it. So that's just to go to show you that, nobody's untouchable. We all fall short. We all make bad choices. We all make shitty decisions. So in my opinion, just worry about you. Worry about what works for you. Make sure you're in this for yourself. Make sure you speak highly of yourself, to yourself. Control your thoughts. Control your words, and you can achieve so much just from that point. And don't feel boxed in by old dialogue. Don't feel boxed in by a book that was written, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, however many years ago. Don't feel boxed in by what one person says at a meeting. Don't feel boxed in, by a standard. You have to build your foundation that works for you. You have to, you better than anybody else. So you have to build a system that is going to be efficient for you. But behind that, you got to make sure you're making that choice, because a lot of us have built flawed systems intentionally because we didn't want to stay clean or sober. So it's a lot of honesty. You got to be real honest with yourself and build a system that works for you. Claire, you said journal. I 100% stamp and approve that message. I preach it a lot in my videos about keeping a journal. Um, Writing things down makes them real. You know, you think something, you say something, write it down. It makes it real. Write down goals that you want to achieve and how you can achieve them. Baby steps to each goal. Write down a list of things that you like about yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever. Write down a list of things that you went through and suffered in your past because of your use and your drinking. And write down a list of things that you're no longer going through, that you don't have to deal with. Write down a list of things that you like about your life in sobriety and read those things daily, and it'll help keep you on track. I'm a big believer in that. So, Claire, I agree with you. I stamp and approve it. I talk about it a lot in my videos. So I hope everybody enjoyed this video. If it was useful for you, share it out. I also always say, if you want to, feel free, add me on my personal page. And if you're ever struggling or you just, need to get something off your chest, you can go ahead and message me. I will respond to you. I'm going to say this because I say it in every video. Disclaimer, with an exception to just general conversation, if you come to me seeking my advice and my help, and I give you my advice and my help, and you keep coming back to me with the same thing over and over and over, and you haven't done anything that I asked you to do, the messages will stop, or I will just repeat my last message to you. I can't force you to do anything. So just know that. If you inbox me for some advice or some help, or you need to get something off your chest, make sure you're ready to put into action. We can talk all day, but talking ain't gonna get shit done. So just keep that in mind. All right, I hope you all have a good day. Stay clean, stay sober.